All right, we good.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you for being here this morning, and appreciate working with us on the venue change as we bounce around. I'll go through a few different things. Obviously, we are in day 2 with the folks from DOGE Tallahassee here. We continue to work with them. Matter of fact, just another conversation with their team, just quickly passing from down the elevator today to make anybody and any information available. And it's going as prescribed, as predicted in terms of wanting access to whatever information, and they may have follow-up questions, may have for either staff or for particular financials. So I appreciate our team working hard. We've met every one of those requests, and I maintain willing to do so. So I'm not going to have an update for you on. We are not getting play-by-play updates or anything like that. So if you ask me what their reactions are, I have no earthly clue at this point, other than what I've said to you last week. I certainly stand behind our efforts as a city, and we are here to be collaborative with the DOGE team, get them whatever information they want, and go from there. And I know that it's also a process that will not be decided by tomorrow necessarily, or reported by tomorrow either. They had spelled that out in our city and in every city or county that they've been to, that they'll go back and digest whatever information and potentially be asking for more information from us. So again, everything is going as predicted on both sides, and we continue to be team players and provide them whatever they need. A couple additions that you saw this morning, we're certainly excited to bring on some more bandwidth up on the 7th floor. That we're bringing on Captain Cliff Collins as our Associate City Administrator for Strategic Initiatives, and he'll help us coordinate and execute projects. This is a slight deviation from the previous Deputy City or Associate City Administrator role. And it is really just more hyper-focused on, we've got a lot of transformational projects happening, and it's about getting those done, whether it's American Magic Baptist Hospital, Fricker Center, South Palafox coming up, all of the Sun Trail coming up. I mean, we're proud of the long laundry list of big multi-million-dollar projects coming our way, and that list continues. And so really with both of these changes, we wanted to be able to add some more firepower in the mayor's office, that when we said this administration was going to get as aggressive and as urgent as possible to have transformational change, we certainly stand behind that and are proud of the accomplishments we've had. But with that extra, that many more projects and that much more urgency comes, the ability to have to maintain and execute that. So we're excited to have Captain Collins upstairs with us. His final tour with the Navy was as Chief of Staff at the Naval Education and Training Command here in Pensacola, and he's also served previously as the Director of Administration for the White House Military Office. So I have worked in the East Wing of the White House previously, and brings not only military experience, but brings lots of administrative experience in that Chief of Staff executor kind of role. And so very, very excited to have him. He was a member of my transition team, if you recall. It feels like 10 years ago, but it was a mere 3 years ago, almost. And so looking forward to working with him. And then Adrienne Walker will shift. She's an internal promotion to our Strategic Initiatives Project Officer. So she served the last few years in historic preservation. All of you probably, actually I know, you've seen her and interacted with her with many of the projects. The Mira Flores Burial Ground Project as an example, and also she was our point person for the strategic plan that we feel like was very successful. So everything I've ever given Adrienne to do, she's figured out how to do, whether she has immense knowledge in it or very little knowledge in it. And those are the type of people that you want helping operate the city, is figuring out how to get things done. And she has a proven track record of that, and so excited to have her helping us with that bandwidth. And both of them will begin on Monday. We do have some special guests this morning that I just greeted before I greeted the media, which is I know that people like dogs more than they like humans. So we have a to be determined name dog back here, but what I really wanted to share is us being resourceful, at the City of Pensacola to do something that really provides multiple wins. So Chief Brown reached out to me mentioning Deputy Chief Goss and his team that we have a impending retirement of one of our canines, Taylor, that has been on the force since 2019. And so Deputy Chief Goss had stumbled upon some information about a litter of the purebred Malinois puppies that were in the custody of the Perdido Humane Society. So Sergeant Parsons, who leads our canine unit, selected one of the puppies for police canine training. So by going this route, not only was the department able to save thousands of dollars, typically in these situations, it's around 10,000-ish, or maybe perhaps more to start from scratch. But not only was the department able to save money, but also get a puppy out of the Humane Society and then a much more dire situation, and now will be an asset and an officer here in our community. So excited for that. More to come on the name, and you guys are the writers. If you have any ideas, writers and reporters, if you have any creative ideas for names, make sure you tell our team back there. Recycling, so far we're now up to 2,945 customers who have opted in. Again, we continue to kind of beat weekly projections from our national partners. So again, you can do the math. I haven't done the exact percentage, but 2,945 out of about 21,500 homes. So well over 10% on our way to 15, 20%. And we're averaging about 100 opt-ins a day coming in with those postcards that we've sent. So we have not seen that trajectory plateau either. So we're very excited for that. One of the big questions is, when do I get my recycling can? I think we want to be very clear with folks. If you send your postcard in, it does take some processing time for that postcard to arrive. Fortunately, because we've got so many people opting in, that also means a little longer lead time. The expectation should be about 7 to 10 days from when you have sent that postcard for when you get a recycling can. We've had some questions, understandably, and we love that people are excited about the chance to recycle. But if you fill that out online or you fill out the postcard, we can't promise you a can will be there the next day, but it is certainly in process. So just be patient with us. Take about 7 to 10 days for that can to get there. But under that timeline, we are fully caught up. So we're not giving 7 to 10 days because we're behind. That's just about what it's taken to get that can out to you. And if it's gone beyond 10 days, anybody out there listening that's gone beyond 10 days, you can call 311 today, and we will chase down the lie behind that and get it to you as soon as possible. So last week, we collected more than 23,000 pounds of recyclables, meaning now we totaled up more than 65,000 pounds of recyclables since the restart, and last week was 8% contamination. So the week before was 6, this week is 8, and we're extremely, extremely pleased with that result. And again, absolutely a completely different world of where we were when we had to stop this program. If you're curious, breakdown of those collections is about 40% cardboard, 18% paper, 14% plastic, 12% cans, and then again, 8% glass. Obviously, that is being accepted, but is not really considered one of the marketable materials. But so that's what the breakdown's looking like in terms of what's coming in. So very, very encouraged by, and a big thank you to our citizens out there that are taking that seriously. And I think that's the whole idea of the opt-in model, is that helps us isolate folks who really want to do this, and you see immediately the positive results. The monitor site on North Palafox, beginning this Saturday, we've suspended that. I mentioned to you guys before we would likely be doing that because of the immense cost and overtime and all of that it takes to run it. I think it served its purpose. It was great. It gave us an outlet, especially for folks that needed help, assistance getting things out of their cars, and our team worked super hard for many, many Saturdays to make that happen. So we have narrated that to our regulars that have been coming here. We told them again last week, the folks that were coming there on Saturday, that it wouldn't be open next week. We certainly would appreciate the media getting that word out. We don't want anybody to show up on Saturday morning disappointed. But the amount of total materials that we were collecting, certainly, as expected, didn't justify the cost of keeping that open with all of the labor and everything. That being said, I hear a rumor every now and then that we're planning on closing Summit. That's news to me. We are not planning on closing Summit. That facility, as has for years, will continue to be open. We are experiencing also an expected downside, which is because of opt-in happening and going so well in terms of contamination, we're starting to see the contamination creep back up at the unassisted drop-offs because, so lots of living room furniture and dining room tables and everything else that because there wasn't an opt-in opportunity for these last several months, actually we saw the contamination go down pretty significantly at Summit. But now that the folks that are doing a good job of recycling might have the convenience back in their hands to be able to do it from their driveway, from their curb, we're starting to see that spike. And so we're trying to work through that. There are signs on all of those, new signs that say what can and can't be recycled. And this weekend was especially busy where we saw a lot of material. Ironically, someone dropped off a lot of cardboard that was actually clean. It just wasn't in the can because the can was full of dining room furniture. So, so we're getting there. But historically, with every city, unassisted drop-offs are just tough to manage. We want to provide that as an amenity, but when you don't have someone there keeping a watchful eye on it, this is a challenge not unique to the City of Pensacola. Unassisted drop-offs are always a little bit of a difficulty. This came up during our last listening session at Fricker. I do want to mention this Pensacola Supplier Development Exchange on August 28th at Sanders Beach. Very common question we get in this city all the time. Hey, I want to work with the city. I'm a contractor, I'm a roofer, I'm a plumber. How do I work with the city or the county or the state? Brian Wire does a great job. He's back here. I always make sure I try to do his PR as good as he can. But it's an amazing event, and this is exactly why this event exists. It is for those folks who want to work with the city and don't know how. What paperwork should they fill out? All of those things. Deidre in our office, our finance office, has been very involved for many years. Again, Brian's been doing this a long time, and he does a great job. And so it's not just for the City of Pensacola, it's also for county procurement, it's also some of the state agencies as well. So it's completely free to show up August 28th, Sanders Beach, 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we got more information on our website, and certainly you can chat with Brian if you'd like to afterwards. He can give you even more details. So with that is everything on my list to tell you, and happy to take any questions you got.
Mayor, can you, this new assistant city administrator, can you kind of talk about what exactly that role entails and how it's different from the old?
Yeah, sure. So one thing that Tim and I discussed when we made a change and that position was open was kind of recalibrating how the administration works in terms of its chain of command. And what I mean is, and every administration is going to do this different. The administration after me will probably have a preference of doing it something different than me. But our administration was kind of run as like one administrator gets 6 departments, another gets 6 departments, another gets 6 departments. And we just found some inefficiencies in terms of upstream, downstream communication. And, there's this kind of odd setup when you do it that way, that the city administrator is kind of asking permission of a deputy city administrator to talk to a certain department. It just didn't make a lot of efficient sense in terms of consistency of communication and of execution. So why we had this delay in filling this position was we kind of wanted the dust to settle around a new arrangement that is the city administrator is the city administrator, and then you have a deputy, and then you have an associate that will have specific tasks and roles. That could be a department. It could be, use an example, Amy Miller is in charge of all the council agenda items that go on, instead of just for a select department, and then 2 other people are doing the same thing. We've tried to streamline those things, and we've been very pleased with that. But our pause in that was, let's see how much bandwidth we have now, and let's kind of let the dust settle around this kind of more clear chain of command for our staff. And so we've been pleased with that, and now we've kind of reached that point where we said, okay, well, now that we understand that this is working and how it should work, let's go ahead and get bandwidth back on to be able to now focus. And you see that in the result of the position that we have, which is it's not you get a third of the departments. It's you are going to be focused specifically on these larger, complex strategic initiatives that we're pushing through in the city.
So how will that interact, though, with, let's say, because strategic initiatives covers almost all the departments one way or another. I particularly mentioned American Magic, with that support of Pensacola
Sure.
and economic development. How do you envision that working?
Yeah, well, that description is exactly why. And let's use South Palafox. That's Public Works, parking, DIB, engineering, downtown business owners, the mayor's office. Lots of these big transformational projects are not as simple as one or even two departments.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we've realized is if there's ever any inefficiencies in any part of that, it's about somebody, and it not just having to be the mayor,
Right.
but somebody that's helping move all of those forward. And so, I think specific to Adrian's position, she is a project manager in the sense, and project officer, in saying she's not an administrator over a department, but it's her job to come in as another arm of the mayor's office and the city administrator to come in and say, hey, we got to glue a lot of things together here, and how do we get them done? And I'll give an example, another example. One of the really intriguing things that came out of the strategic plan, I thought, was this idea of trying to build these community nodes that are not downtown. And that was something our residents wanted is, what if we want to have something that feels walkable in a community outside of downtown and in these neighborhoods? And I love that idea philosophically. How will that project ever move forward without someone waking up every day and figuring out how to do that? Because where are you going to get the property? What do the neighbors think? I mean, that's such a big, that is such an elephant to take on to be able to move those forward. And so we just wanted someone waking up every day figuring out not only what the vision is and working with me and the city administrator to set what the vision and the priorities are, but then someone's got to go out there and get it done. And I think it's the complexity of the projects that you just, like American Magic, that we feel requires someone being kind of the glue guy or to come in and say, put it all right. Yeah, and say, hey, is this moving? Is this moving? PIO's office, is this moving? How are we sharing this with the community? All of those different things. And I think there's examples of why we should do it that way. And I think there's examples that if we had it in place, we probably could have done a better job, in previous months and years. So we're excited for this new iteration, and I think there's a lot of clarity around chain of command. And I think, and I mentioned to all our directors yesterday, I think those positions are going to be a huge help to the directors themselves. That they're not having to go also feel like they've got to be the glue person bringing something to the mayor's office, that they're going to have help putting all that together.
Mayor, with these new positions, how it comes in the midst of a city administrator moving out of city.
Sure.
How is that going to work? Are they going to assist with the search? Are they going to kind of fill a void? Or
yeah, so obviously before they accepted those jobs, they were aware of that, so we will post. We'll have a national search for the city administrator's job. Amy Miller will be the interim city administrator. She stepped up for us before. Certainly has decades of experience here in respecting this building. So I'm glad to have her on our team to step in there. And then as a matter of fact, I believe it's already posted. I believe the city administrator has posted already. So we're going to miss Tim, no doubt about it. And he did so many amazing things for us at the city, and we are a better city today than we were before he started. But those are things that we want to continue in a new administration, and so we're excited to get somebody on board and keep that momentum going.
Do you have an expectation for how long the search will last?
No, I'm always careful about that because I'm a find the who and figure out the what kind of guy. If I say, oh, it's only 30 days or it's only 60 days, we've had positions where we posted it and we haven't really found that right person, and then it's taken a little longer. We posted positions where we got 300 resumes and we're having to whittle down 10 or 15 amazing people, for that job. So I hesitate to put a timeline on it, but certainly we have urgency to get it filled, of course, because it's the top position in the city, and we don't want to miss a beat. But having these folks stepping in, having Amy there already, I don't suspect at this point, unless this were to be some type of prolonged delay, I don't expect there to be any delay or additional hurdles to all of the things that we're working on right now.
Mayor, given your Connected Communities grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation, recently the current administration has paused a lot of those grants and in some cases rescinded some fairly large grants, one of which looks very similar to your Hollice T. Williams program. Do you think that grant is currently threatened at the moment?
Well, I think the last update we got from them was August 7th. So we continue to be in conversation with them. They're working through the executive order related things on the federal side. But no, we have not been handed any notification. And again, just to be clear, that's one piece, I believe, of this entire grant. There are several grants stacked within the Hollice T. Williams project. So it's not, just to be clear with the public listening out there, this is that there's state money, there's stormwater money, there's reconnecting communities, there's NERDA money, there's several different streams. But no, we have not been given any notification at this point. As of August 7th, they're working through their side of things. They have not given us any direction or told us something isn't going to happen. Obviously, we wait and find out. But we have not changed any behavior as far as that project is going so far. We continue to forge ahead, and because listen, in every part of my job, if we were to stop speculatively on something that may or may not happen, I think the best thing we can do as a city is continue to go as planned. And if news changes or decisions change, then we pivot from there and do the best we can.
One of the triggers, apparently, the administration's using to rescind a grant is the degree of obligation or execution that has occurred. I think in the Miami case, they were like 8% obligated, and that was the reason.
Yeah.
One of the reasons the $60 million was pulled back.
Yeah.
How far along are you on this grant?
I'd have to get with Joel specifically on this specific grant. That's what he wakes up and does every day. But obviously that makes logical sense. If there's going to be a change in opinion, administration, and priorities, I mean for any federal grant in any department, then it's going to naturally be lower hanging fruit to take on grants that are further down the road than something that's about to have a ribbon cutting, right? So that position that any grant would be at a higher percentage chance of exposure because it's not as far along, it makes sense to a degree. Certainly, we don't want anything to change. We think this is a transformational project for our stormwater, for all of that. We will continue, to work with all of our partners to make it happen. But really, at this point, that decision is out of our control. I think they'll let us know when circumstances change on any of these grants. This is a transformational stormwater project for our city. We know it's very important, and we'll take it day by day.
Some communities who have reclaimed back to these rescissions have now been invited to rewrite their draft, their grant proposal.
Sure.
In your most recent conversation with U.S. Department of Transportation, have they invited you to redo your grant proposal?
That conversation was with Joel and with our grant staff, not directly with me. So I don't know every detail of what was said, but I could safely say, John, that if that had been offered, I would have been briefed on that. So again, I think where they've left it with me, and when I've been briefed on this as of August 7th, just several days ago, that it is where it is. They are digesting their own executive order-based things up in D.C. to figure out what's next, but they have not told us something is happening or something's not happening at this point. So again, we continue to forge ahead, and we'll take life as it comes.
Mayor, on the DOGE things, I guess have you had any or have they asked for things that were not in the letter previously, or anything, information that y'all weren't expecting?
Nothing I'm aware of. I think everything, speaking with staff and specific, requests are all in line with everything that you saw. And I reiterate, if you look at that list and you look at lists, there's a big misperception here because, this is our community. We may not be paying as much attention outside. The vast majority of the questions that were of those 60-something things are the exact same questions that are being asked in every city and every county. I think there's a perception that there was some type of legwork done on all of these issues uniquely to Pensacola. All of the Green New Deal, the solar, the DEI, the procurement, the salary type of questions are all very consistent with what's happening around the state. So again, I would not speculate on, nor would I know at this point if there was something new to your question, but
curbside recycling, you're right about 10%. What's the goal? What percentage would you like to see of your customers opt in?
Honestly, as many as possible, and I've mentioned this to council, the more opt-in we have, actually, the less exposure we have in terms of being able to plateau, or potentially in a perfect world, if there was ever gonna be a scenario where we could actually drop rates for either.
Right.
The more opt-in that we have, the more likely that is. Because if you think about it this way, let's say it stopped today at 10%. Well, now we're providing a second line of service, a second line of labor for only 10% of the city versus 40 or 50% of the city, where those per costs go up. It's kind of like the question when someone says, well, if I was going from twice a week garbage to once a week, why did my bill not get cut in half? Well, that's not how the world works. The machines are the machines, the labor is the labor, and the world doesn't work that way. I wish it did for my own pocketbook too, but it just doesn't always work that way. So the more that we can, the more folks that opt in, the better financial position sanitation is in,
Right.
Therefore a better financial position for us to again, keep rates same or lower.
Is there a percentage number where that happens?
Yeah, well, so what I can tell you is the current pricing as we sit right now is modeled, and I mean, I looked at so many spreadsheets, Rick, I mean, down to the 31, 32, 33.
Right.
I mean, we had a built-in spreadsheet where we were kind of playing with opt-in down to the single-digit percentages. So somewhere in that 35, 40% ballpark is what we've modeled. Now, remember, when you started ultimately a new business, I mean, this is a new line, yes, it's sanitation, but we're gonna learn some things as well. So for example, what do we not know right now? We don't know, is there any synergistic labor cost savings in the fact that there's one loop of 21,500 houses and then another loop of 8,000 or 9,000 houses? Can we save on labor? Can we save on depreciation of equipment? So those are just things that we aren't gonna have an exact number on until we, go through this a little while. So there's hope on the back end as well, is that if our operation becomes more efficient, our bills can go down, and certainly not be in a threat to go up the way they were when we paused recycling. They were on their way well up because we were gonna have to go from 35 a ton for recycling to 82 a ton for 21,000 houses, and with no other revenue stream other than to raise everybody's bills. So yes, there's lots of bumps on the road and change causes anxiety, but I do feel I'm very encouraged by the contamination rate. I'm very encouraged by the pace at which people are opting in, and we're excited that continues, that momentum continues 100 a day or so coming in at this point.
Mayor, at your budget workshop, the council's budget workshop this past week, we learned that you're proposing in the new budget to increase your transfers from Pensacola Energy to the general fund. And it was mentioned that this is something that is pretty controversial in the state legislature. Can you give us sort of your thinking about what an enterprise fund means to the city, and why would you want to increase it this year?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Number one, the obvious within that sector is there used to be a fee that's no longer collected. We could start there, is whatever the percentage was before also surmised a franchise fee that no longer is collected, that the second that I came in after this years and years long battle that was only costing the taxpayers more money or energy more money, that we tried to nip that in the bud. So that's a reality of this year's budget. I've mentioned to council staff before, and it's not that I don't understand their position of saying, well, it's less about what happens this year, is that if you get habitually with a higher percentage, which is not what we've proposed. We've not said we're gonna go to this percentage from this point forward. But my position has always been this, and I mentioned it in the last two budget meetings that I've been as the mayor, is to say, listen, what revenue stream do we have that's not variable? I mean, property tax, I mean, what happens if we have a recession? Sales tax, what happens if we have a recession? So our franchise fees, not energy, but FPL, and less people are living here, or we're taking in less power, or less people are paying cell phone bills, whatever the case may be, is there are market conditions around every single revenue stream we have. So while I can understand the long-term concern of, well, if we go to this percentage, that means we're gonna go to this percentage forever. We have not proposed that, but in my opinion, it gets treated in isolation as this idea that, well, it causes concern because of the potential fluctuation of Pensacola energy usage. Well, sure, so does sales tax. So, I mean, if we hit a massive home recession right now, the last thing I'm worried about is the difference between 15 and 17% of energy. I got bigger problems to deal with on property tax, on sales tax and things like that. So yeah, I mean, we're looking to settle this the best that we can. I mean, the facts are, since I've started, we have 0 new net positions since I started in government. So yes, we fixed with salary study, but we have not increased staff. As a matter of fact, I believe I don't think we've increased staff over the final year of Mayor Robinson. So we've got about 4 years with the same number of people working for the city. So we are not building up more and more labor and salary to work on, and so we're doing the best we can. I know that the council knows that. So again, I'm not dismissing that position of concern, but there's the reality of this year, which is there is no franchise fee. That is, with that gone, that is out of the budget from the previous year, and trying to make up for that. But my hope is to work with council members individually on what their comfort level is on okay, is it 15, is it 18, is it 19, and that's part of this job, is to try to meet the council members where they are, and if there's some preference. But if you were to go down a significant amount, that's not going to be $100,000. It's going to be a 7-figure number, and which would mean probably some pretty drastic changes that we would have to make to adjust for that loss. So anyway, looking forward to those conversations with council staff, with council members, and I'll have a better gauge of where that might sit a little bit later.
Mayor, can you give me some clarity on these new positions? Forgive me, I'm not caught up on the history of the city staff. You said that the staff, you have the same number since Mayor Robinson. So you didn't create these new positions. I mean, is there an added cost to taxpayers?
What I meant citywide. So
gotcha.
So,
okay.
yeah, so we have proposed in this 2026 budget, I believe it's 880 positions. Let's see if I got that list. Yeah, so fiscal year, Mayor Robinson's last budget had 879 positions in it. Our first one had 890, then we went down to 872, and we're at 880 being proposed for this budget coming up. So my point is over 4 years of time, we are not creating additional positions, additional labor in that sense. But part of a new administration is you move around based on priorities. There's jobs here that Mayor Robinson had that don't exist anymore, and there's jobs that are here under this administration that now exist. And I fully suspect whoever replaces me is going to say, well, that's not my priority, I'm going to do something else. So the natural ebb and flow of changing administrations, but it is important to us that we continue to control. The last thing that I think government should be doing is just blindly adding positions without finding kind of that one in, one out scenario. And Tim and I were very, very clear with our staff this time, before it even came to a council workshop, that anything that any department's proposing needs to be considered a one in, one out scenario. You guys had asked me that previously, and we maintain that, and we certainly believe that that's what's been reflected in the budget that they are workshopping right now, is to say if the department needed something or they were adding something, something had to be taken away. And so I appreciate their effort in doing that, and I think that's the product that we've got in front of the council right now.
Mayor, following up on the budget workshop, your budget for 26, and I know it's in early iterations right now, you're not proposing to use the rollback rate. You're proposing to hold the millage steady as of last year. But by state law, if you don't use the rollback rate, you have to tell the public that it's a tax increase.
Yeah.
If you use the rollback rate, and I forgot, Ms. Lavoy threw a number out there, a financial million, whatever. What would be the effect if you did use a rollback rate on your budget going forward, programs, initiatives, things like that?
Well, I mean, obviously, property tax is 34% of the general fund. And, I mentioned, and I know you guys saw the letter, if you take out CRAs and you say it's about $22 million of property tax coming in, police and fire alone is 48 or something to that effect. So things like physical energy transfers matter in terms of being able to provide public service. I stand behind historically, I've been here 2 years, but we have not had a millage increase since 1994. I was in 5th grade, like my daughter is right now, the last time. And that was actually when it went down from 5 mills to 4.2. And again, look at the state average, it's 4.8. So we are significantly under the state average, and we are considering, or we're not considering. John, to be honest with you, I think if you look around the community, we might be the only government, it's kind of ironic that we're talking about this, I think we're the only government not proposing some increase this year in some way. And so, not just in this county, but in surrounding counties. So we don't have an assessment going up, we don't have a millage going up. I understand how you're defining that, and that's been the same since I've been here well before, is we notify that per state law. We continue to do that at council meetings. But again, I feel that we are good stewards of taxpayer money, and we'll see what happens.
Mayor, do you want to opine or
Probably not. No, go ahead.
Well, I know you do have thoughtful opinions, and so the county commissioners are set to take up the school superintendent referendum issue once again here pretty soon. And it's become sort of a partisan thing in the community. You're hearing people talk about, well, if you do it during the primary, you're only going to get Republican voters, and you're shutting out NPA and others. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, you were a full-throated supporter of the referendum last time around, and I realize you're in a different role here, but.
Yeah, well, I mean, to the second part of your question, I would think that the school district being a nonpartisan school district, the most fair way to do that would be to do it in the general election when you're going to have a increased turnout. All I can speak for is the city, and I know in 2018 that every single voting precinct in the city of Pensacola voted for appointment. That's what I know. Every single one unanimously. And so, at the end of the day, that's their decision of how they want to do it. But I would think in something technical and nonpartisan like a school district decision, that the most fair way to do it would be when the most people are voting, I would think, regardless of party. And to even predict that, what number of RDs going to be in an election, I mean, that's all. I mean, that can change 6 months before an election. That can change 3 months. I mean, it's almost hard to predict. But anytime I do a survey, I like the maximum amount of people filling out the survey. That's how I like it. And whether they agree with it or whether they don't agree with it, And so, but I'm not here to tell the county commission or the school district of how to what they think is best. If you're asking my opinion, I think that would be the most fair way to do it. But if you're asking my opinion about this topic, I've got lots more that I'll say. But we are where we are, and that I would think that would be the fair way to do it.
Mayor, last question I've got for you is the DOGE audit. Can you talk at all about your correspondence with the state since they've been here? I mean, has it been cordial? Have you seen them at all? Is the CFO here? Can you tell us anything?
So no, CFO's not here, or I know, I was going to say, unless I didn't know, but he's not. But no, he is not here. Listen, we're in communication with the state, and everything I've shared with you guys is what we've shared with them. And we have no insecurity about it. Now listen, after the fact, what subjective things are we going to say should be or not be priorities of cities? I'm sure we'll have that discussion, and I have no clue what those things may or may not be. It would be completely reckless speculation to say what this group or the CFO or the governor or anybody else is going to take issue with. All we can do is we're certainly secure in how we spend our dollars, that our track record in our own audits that happen every year, our track record generationally here at the city in terms of our bond rating and everything else. So when you are talking about things like fraud and abuse, we have the utmost security in the fact that we are good stewards of the taxpayer dollar. And so all we can do is answer any questions that they have, be as open as possible about anything. We have not stood in their way or taken issue or been adverse or protested any request that they've had, not one. And we'll continue that throughout the day-to-day and any other conversations coming up.
How many people are here from there?
I'll be guessing. I'm going to say somewhere in the 8 range, something like that. Yeah, I don't know the exact number. Something like that. And got here yesterday, and then they're here, again today till mid-afternoon or so, I believe.
Mayor, I want to follow up real quick on, you answered Jim in terms of what areas they were looking at earlier. But based on their request for information from staff since they got here, what are the biggest areas? Is it policy, programs, financials? Have you been able to?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my interaction with them directly, we had obviously we had a pre-call.
Right.
I've been on a call with CFO and Golia with Republican mayors, late last week. Not just folks, coincidentally, a meeting that our audit has taken place and, heard some of his insights, not about specific to Pensacola, just about the whole, entire process. And some of the, the benchmarks that they want to look at. Obviously it's all what you see in the letter, questions about, HR and salary type of discussions. Yeah, I mean, I'll give an example. I know there's questions about DEI, programs or DEI mandates within HR. We don't have any of those, so, but I can't speak for, I don't know. I just don't know the answer of what we did in 2019 or 2020. I have not gone back and studied our history of previous administrations, but but we answer any questions that they may have about that. But I think it is certainly a safe spectrum is that what they've sent in the letter are the general questions, the HR, the DEI initiatives, sustainability, solar, Green New Deal type questions, all of that. But I'm not in the room. Frankly, my staff would probably know better of the exact questions that are happening than I have. I'm welcome here. Said I got an open door. Tell me anything that you need. And we looked at that. They've been very cordial with our stuff, very professional. We didn't expect anything different. And I hope that that's that is their takeaway when they leave here today.
Will they outbrief you on their departure?
I don't know. I don't know. I know they are meeting with Tim, near the end of the day. I'm not exactly aware if I'm going to get that today or some other time. I'm certainly willing to if that's the way they go, or if they give us some type of follow-up after the fact. We'll do it the way they've been doing it around the state. Anything else?
Was there anything in that call with the Republican mayors? Were these the mayors that have already been audited, or these?
No, just a collection of. Yeah.
But was there anything in that call that surprised you that was not in their pre-letter in terms of their benchmarks and their interests?
Again, I think, looking at different, CFO and Golia mentioned some benchmarks like, what's the average salary of city government compared to its average salary of the community? We're relatively in line with that. What's the per capita spending of the state of Florida, per population versus a specific city? Things like that. Again, those are just things that they're going to measure and prioritize. We haven't gotten any specific questions that I know of today about those. But it was just good insight. I mean, that's why I hopped on, just to hear and understand, things that are going. And I reiterate, we have not been given any indication that this is targeted for any particular reason, any particular activity that a department or the administration took on. And so folks can speculate out there. We're not going to speculate on the whys behind anything happening. We're secure and being good stewards of taxpayer dollars, and we'll answer any questions the same way I should answer questions from a citizen if they ask me if we're spending our dollars responsibly. So we work with CFO and Golia's team, happy to do it, and we'll give them anything that they ask.
What was the mood of the mayors on that call generally? I mean, you've been very
it's on
hospitable
Zoom,
here.
it's kind of hard to gauge a mood versus in person on Zoom. Yeah, I think it's fun. Listen, it's new, so I think people are just asking questions about it. I don't think it's there wasn't any spirited positions or anything adverse. I think all of us want to spend. I mean, that's the fun. We have an aligned goal. Now we may differ and disagree on priorities of that, on subjective things, and I think CFO Golia and DOGE understands that there's some of this might be objective when they go into a city that they have concerns about, and some is going to be subjective on a statewide priority versus a specific city's priority. And so we understand that, and all we can do is again be as helpful as we can, let them get whatever questions they want answered, and we're there to answer the phone or answer the bell for anything that they're asking for, and again, it's been nothing but a positive interaction so far. This doesn't feel, we don't feel any discomfort, any insecurity about what's going on, and looking forward to seeing where it goes from there. All right, thanks, y'all.